How's it going, motherfuckers? I am back with a review and a little discussion here. This has been my third and final viewing, as long as it's in theaters, of Star Wars The Last Jedi. I'm cutting myself off at this point until it gets released on Blu-ray, and then, then I will watch it again. But three times is the charm. This is what I did with Force Awakens. I went to go see the movie three times, twice for Rogue One. And, I got to say, once again, a great movie, a great entry into the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Um, and I enjoyed it just as much as the past two times. I don't really have a lot of complaints about this movie, but I am here to combat those fanboys once again. And I really have to talk about certain perspectives on this film. And, of course, I'm watching the film again. So it's not like me just kind of reflecting on, few days removed like I did with the previous videos. But I have to go back and expand on certain things after watching this movie for a second time. So many people complained about, converging all these different stories into one. They said things were a bit overcrowded, things were a bit uneven in the story. So, we have a bunch of different stories. We've got, Finn and Rose going to the casino to find the master code breaker. We've got the conflict with Holdo and Poe. We've got Ray and Luke. We've got Ray and Kylo Ren, and we've got Snoke, and Kylo Ren kind of he's losing his faith in Kylo, and he's just not really thinking that he's up to par. So we've got a lot of different little things going on and different scenes. And the thing is, like I said, I appreciate this was a Star Wars film where this is a giant universe. This is a giant universe filled with many characters. And many of these characters are new that we really still don't know a lot about. I mean, like Finn and Rose and all these other new characters, and we only have had Ray in one movie. So we have to address all these characters. And, we spend a little bit of time here, we spend a little bit of time there. And I didn't have a problem with that. There's no written rule in a Star Wars movie that it has to take place. And I understand what they're going for there. What a lot of fanboys are saying. When it comes to A New Hope, or, we saw one consistent story. There was no, they didn't cut out to any other characters. All the characters were together for most of the film. The only time that they ever flashed back and forth between different things was when Obi-Wan was facing Darth Vader, and and they show Luke and Han and Leia on different parts of the Death Star, and so they would flash back and forth. But there's always been cuts in Star Wars movies, but maybe not drastically, where they're in whole totally different areas and different spots in the galaxy. Okay, so we understand that that was a big problem. A lot of people didn't enjoy that. There's too many different things, and a lot of people said the biggest and worst part of the movie was the casino scenes, where I think that we've got a new planet here. I think that there's some good comedy introduced in this, and I said, like, I genuinely like Rose. She's not the typical look for a Star Wars protagonist, but that's part of the underdog thing. She seems a bit off, especially when she introduces herself to Finn. But perhaps that is perfect for Finn, who is a flawed character in himself. I mean, we see Finn acts downright heroic in the end of Force Awakens, but here he is about to jump into an escape pod. He's got his bag packed, and he's ready to ditch the whole Rebel Alliance. I mean, if that's not an interesting flawed character, I don't know what is really. So I didn't really have a problem with this whole casino scene. Getting to meet the other very untrustworthy code breaker played by Benicio del Toro. I mean, I think that there was a lot to like about these casino scenes, and especially when they climb atop those creatures with the long necks and they start just plowing through the casinos. I mean, I think those are great, exciting scenes that are quite memorable. Uh, so I didn't really hate those scenes as much. Did I enjoy them as much as when they show Ray or the space battles? Probably not. But the thing is, I mean, we're trying to tell a part of a story here. And I think what the problem is, um, people have been spoiled by fan fiction and different ideas, and they want the Star Wars universe to go their way. And what I said at the end of the day, it's people are not going to be satisfied with anything but the original trilogy. And let's forget that people even have problems with the original trilogy. There's some people that don't particularly like the fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in A New Hope. There's many people that thought that Obi-Wan shouldn't have died on the Death Star. There's many people who didn't like Return of the Jedi. There's many people that feel that the Ewoks completely ruined that movie. There's people that said that they didn't like the whole retread of them rebuilding the Death Star. They thought that that was monotonous. So, like I said, the criticism of this series goes on and on and on and on. And that is probably what you're going to always get when you have a big franchise like this. You're going to get a lot of complaints. You're going to get a lot of critiques. You're going to get a lot of people with all this fan fiction, all the video games, all the books, Heir to the Empire, and all these different ideas that were floating around. You're going to have a lot of people who have different interpretations of the Star Wars universe, and you're going to want to have that universe the way how you want it. You have a different idea. I'm sure, your idea of how you want Star Wars to progress in the films is way different than what another person wants. If you go to a person and say, well, how do you want this movie to be? Everyone's going to have their different opinion. No one's going to really agree. People are going to have, some people like a certain way of storytelling, other people don't. Some people want just one straight ahead story similar to A New Hope with very little deviations from the main narrative. And then you probably have some people that kind of get bored with a straightforward narrative and might want to have a little bit of variety. And that's what we got in The Last Jedi. There's a lot of variety going on. There's a lot of different stories. Nothing really feels similar. See, but the thing is, it feels new. It feels different. We never had a casino planet. We never had characters climbing on top of other creatures and, stampeding through casinos. We've never really seen this before. There's a lot of different elements to this series, and it was all really in response to a lot of complaints that were introduced when Force Awakens came out. When they said that it was too much like the like A New Hope, like the very first Star Wars movie ever introduced. But the thing is, you would think that fans would at least appreciate that this film was at least a deviation from the whole story of the original trilogy. That was the complaint with the prequels. We already knew what was going to happen. Aside from people having problems with the acting and feeling that, that episode 1 was filler and having a problem with the romance in episode 2. There's a lot, always different complaints going on. But when we were introduced with a new story, it was still met with a lot of complaints. And I thought that was just going to be a minor thing, but the more and more I heard, oh, it's too much like A New Hope. It's too much like A New Hope. It's too similar. It follows the same story premise. We start off in the desert and we end with a space station blowing up. I mean, it's like, come on already. We're getting a bit ridiculous. I mean, you kind of know what to expect from Star Wars. You really do. So when you kind of get things that seem a bit familiar, it's probably because we've already spent a lot of time in this universe as it is. But people would say that yes, and I will admit there are a lot of similarities to A New Hope, but is it too much like it to the point where it's a distraction? I really didn't think so. I thought there was enough new characters and enough nuances in the film that really set it apart. And to say it was like A New Hope is like, okay, isn't that a good thing that if it reminds you of arguably what many people would say is the best in the series? Okay, so we have those complaints. It's too similar. Now the complaint is that it's too new and it's too different. It's too jokey. Star Wars always had a comedy, but they say this comedy doesn't hit the right marks. I think that when Poe starts to troll Hux in the beginning, I think that is brilliant. I 3 times seeing it, and I have to say that is probably one of the funniest moments I've seen in the Star Wars movie, and it was fresh. It wasn't like comedy that we've seen before, like just somebody falling down, and it's not like a Jawa falling off of a creature in Mos Eisley like in A New Hope. It's not that type of humor at all. It's, we got something a little bit different there. And I really appreciated that. Like I said, I also really like the comedy between Ray and Luke when he tells her to reach out, and she reaches out and she touches the leaf. I mean, and Mark Hamill's expression, his reaction to that situation. I like when the caretakers, when their wheelbarrow gets destroyed, or Ray shoots off her blaster, hoping to hit Kylo Ren when he tries to reach out to her telepathically. I mean, there's a lot of funny parts in this movie, and people also attacked him. Oh, it's too joke. It's like pretending like Star Wars has never had humor in it at all. That one of the most famous scenes is Han Solo on the comlink on the Death Star saying, that everything is fine here and this is boring conversation anyway. I mean, it's like you've got to just really admit at a point we're just nitpicking at things that have already existed in the Star Wars universe now for 40 years. I mean, really, for 40 years now, like, there's been comedy in Star Wars. And now all of a sudden, it's too much. It's just too much. There's no place for comedy in Star Wars. A bit ridiculous. And then the other thing that we're talking about is backstory. And this is really the new point that I want to bring up here in this video. Backstory on Snoke. Really? And I said this already in the video about Snoke and backstory and how it really wasn't needed. And now I'm going to elaborate on it more, saying that people already said there was too much in this film. So let me ask you a question. What would you take out of this film? People are probably, the casino scenes. Okay, so what are Finn and Rose going to do? It was already established that these characters are going to be together. What do you want them to do? You want them to stand by the side, or you want them to embark on an adventure that sets them apart from everybody else so they're not just meaningless filler characters? So, okay, so you want to take out all that time and you want to just delve into Snoke's past all of a sudden. And I'm not saying that Snoke's not an interesting character. I like Snoke. I think that the time that we spend with Snoke is adequate enough, though. I really do. I mean, what more do you want to know about Snoke? Snoke is, everybody's saying, oh, he's just the second emperor, really. It's the same story. So what happened? They decided to just cut that right out right away. And, people had their own ideas of Snoke. The people thought that he was a giant at first. Then people were saying that is Snoke Darth Plagueis. And we just kind of set ourselves up for disappointment because we were all expecting Snoke to be something different. That, oh my God, Snoke's going to be something, that we're not even ready to handle yet. And you see, this is the thing: you hype yourself up, and it's just rumors, and there's no foundation to these rumors either. And people build themselves up, and then they're just like, okay, so really, Snoke is just Kylo Ren's master. He led him away from the teachings of the ways of the Force with Luke and led him astray from the Jedi Temple. And we see how it goes in the movie. You watch the movie, you know how it goes. Snoke ends up proving himself to Kylo Ren because, Kylo Ren misunderstands what Luke is doing when he's looming over him when he's sleeping. He's contemplating just killing him and ending the darkness. And so that's kind of like the nail in the coffin right there. Kylo Ren sees Luke. He thinks he's about to betray him, and he goes with Snoke. Snoke is the new Dark Lord. He is the one that, right off the bat, is, he's the evil guy. He's obviously drawing comparisons to the Emperor, with the robe and sitting in the big chair, the throne, and everything. So, what really do we need to learn about Snoke? I mean, seriously, that's what the expanded universe is for. Write a book on Snoke, write a graphic novel about him, but do we really need to delve into the man's past? We did dive into the past of the Emperor, Emperor Palpatine, right? You people hated those movies. You hated the prequels right? We already know what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. We spend all these movies learning that, Palpatine was just he was a corrupt politician, basically, and this is how he ended up taking over the Republic, by using his influences behind the scenes to eventually just take over and turn it into his own empire. And so, but you people didn't like that. You complained about the prequels. You didn't like the story that was told through episodes 1 through 3, and you felt that it was unnecessary, right? So, okay, so why is it necessary to tell the story with Snoke? Can you guys explain that to me? If you had a problem with the prequels and that you already knew what happened, can't you pretty much guess the story on Snoke? That he's an evil Sith Lord. And I've heard people say ridiculous things. Oh, they're not Sith. I mean, just because they don't call them Sith. Look, all a Sith has to be is a dark dark Jedi Force user. That's all it is. It's the same thing. There's no difference between a dark Jedi and a Sith. It is just basically a synonym. It is the same thing. And if it is different, then explain to me how it's different, because it's not different. It's the same exact thing. Trust me on this. It has been said. It has always been said that there are always two, right? So there's Kylo Ren, and he kills his master right off the bat. So now he's the supreme leader. He's the supreme ruler. He's the new emperor, basically. He's the next in the chain of command. So that's why he does it. That's why he kills him. He wants to erase the past and get him out of the picture. So, but we really need to delve into this man's past, though. We really need to find out about Snoke when we already know pretty much what he's about. He's a bad guy, and he's a Sith Lord, and he needs a student. He needs somebody to watch his back, to do his evil deeds for him, while he kind of sits back and oversees everything from his throne, similar to Emperor Palpatine. And if the thing is, this is what kills me, is when you saw the Emperor for the first time in The Empire Strikes Back. You didn't know anything about him. You didn't even know that his name was Palpatine. You just knew that he was the Emperor, that he was the Dark Lord, that he was the man behind the scenes. You thought that Vader was the leader, but he wasn't. He was really the underling of the Emperor. And you didn't know anything about the Emperor. You didn't know anything about the Emperor still in Return of the Jedi, other than that he was the teacher of Vader, and that he controlled Vader, and he gave Vader his marching orders. And that's all you really knew about the Emperor. You didn't need to know anything else, because really it would have just been really just adding on to the story, which is okay. But it's like you really didn't need to know too much about him. He's obviously evil, so of course that's why he is going to be a dark Force user. We already could kind of tell with the Force lightning. We don't see that from any of the light side Jedis. We don't see Luke doing that. So it was already established. He's a bad guy, and he's the teacher of Darth Vader. And that's all you really needed to know. You didn't really need to delve into the man's past. But now all of a sudden, Last Jedi comes out. Oh, got to delve into everyone's past. We can't accept this movie for what it is. We need to know everything there is to know about these characters. We need to know their social security numbers. We need to know their address. We need to know, who they dated in the second grade. I mean, it's a bit ridiculous already. I mean, especially when you guys pan the fact that this story kind of just started adding and shoehorning things in the prequels that you kind of suspected weren't even there to begin with. And, that was really open to interpretation. So it's like, if it wasn't good back then, why would you want it now? When it was something that you didn't like, now all of a sudden you want backstory. Too much backstory to not enough backstory. Which one is it going to be? Because, like I said, this is why it's not even worth it arguing with these Star Wars fanboys. Because the hardcore fan base is annoying. And, as somebody told me on Twitter, okay, it's not all Star Wars fans. I know that. I shouldn't have to say some, but the thing is what I'm saying, it's a lot of them. They spent over a decade now complaining about the prequels and all the follies and everything that's wrong about the prequels. And, they did this wrong. They explained too much. They harped on this for too long. And now we're not harping enough. We need to harp more. So it's like, what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. Apparently, we have to do this a certain way because this is how I want it to be. But you said this a couple of years ago. You said that the same exact thing wasn't good for the series, but now it's good for it now. So at what point do we say to ourselves, we're just complaining for the hell of it? We don't even have a real reason for disliking this film. You might not like it. You just have a reason, but you just can't explain it. You're just having a problem putting it into words. Because so far, all the complaints I've heard against this is like, it's not Star Wars enough. It doesn't feel like Star Wars. It doesn't. I mean, like, this movie begins with a giant space battle. You know what I'm saying? It's a bit ridiculous and ends with a with guys holding lightsabers. We're seeing action. We're seeing comedy. This is Star Wars. It is Star Wars right down to the core. There's not at any moment where I felt that I'm not watching a Star Wars movie. It's like this is your interpretation. It's like I guess because if it hasn't been seen in the previous Star Wars movie, it's not. But you already said that it was too familiar when they tried that with Force Awakens. So this is what I don't get. It's like so you can't do it a certain way in this film, but it's okay in another film, and then we want to try new things. I'm not ready for new things just yet. It's this is too old, but this is too new. It's like, oh god, enough is enough already. Just go and write your fan fiction if that's what you want, and then pitch it to Disney, I suppose. I guarantee you, your script will be rejected in 2 seconds because they're not interested in making movies that you think that you'd enjoy. They're interested in making movies that everyone can enjoy, a mass audience. And it's the funny thing is that after like 2 weeks, somebody just like attacks me and says, "Oh, the ticket sales are going down." It's still the number one movie at the box office. So apparently, if each Star Wars movie doesn't top the other, then it's like, first of all, I don't even care how much money the movie makes. It's not really a concern to me. I don't really care. It's like if I enjoy the movie, at the end of the day, that's all that matters to me. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what how many people are reaching into their pocketbooks to pay out for this film. It doesn't matter because it's like if I enjoy it, then that's not really going to affect my enjoyment at all. It's just like people are looking for excuses to hate on the movie, and all the reasons I've been saying are ridiculous. It's like backstory for what? Why do we need to just all of a sudden bring this movie to a grinding halt so we can explain all there is to Snoke? Even though we already said that this movie feels bloated and there's, too much going on. And, we don't like casinos and we don't like code breakers and we don't want to sit around for all that. We want Star Wars, even though it is Star Wars and it feels like Star Wars. It sounds like Star Wars in every way and every facet. It is Star Wars, but it's not the Star Wars you want. And it's quite obvious that you're never going to get that film that you want because you've been clamoring for that particular film for quite a while already. And it's not going to come around because really it's, unless a director comes and starts taking notes on what's inside your head, you're never going to get what you want. You have to sit back and you have to realize that this is the director's vision. This is what they wanted in the movie. It's not what they think. They'll throw in stuff that they think that other people want to see, and there'll be a bit of fan service. But they're not just going to concentrate on what one person says because a couple of people on the internet say that Snoke deserved a backstory, so I'm going to release an alternate ending to this film on Blu-ray where he lives. It's not going to happen. They're not going to uh you know come up with an alternate version of this film that pleases you. No, this is the movie and it is a work of art, and I've seen it 3 times now and I can clearly say that this is an excellent film. It's got a new story to tell. It's trying very hard to get these new characters over and introduce them in a light that makes them likable, and they've succeeded. I mean, and then there's claims that this is an SJW film, and it's completely ridiculous because we have one Um, we have some diversity because apparently we're supposed to sit around in the world where we have people that look different, and we're supposed to go into this film and expect it to be exactly how it was in 77. You know, when we don't even realize that was 40 years ago. I'm saying it's like you people are a bit ridiculous. You have a problem because one of the actors is black. It's okay. So if he was a bad actor, I could see it. You know, you don't like Finn, but it turns out that he is a good actor and he has a fun, flawed character. And then people are having a problem because Rose is Asian. Like, okay, so she's an underdog character. They wanted to put, and she's good. She gets herself over in this film. She's a bit goofy. She knows when to be serious though, and she compliments Finn very well. Uh, so I don't see a problem. It's like I don't go fishing to hate things in movies. I don't. I might come on YouTube and do reviews, and I might try to be critical. But like I said, I genuinely try to like a movie as much as possible because to go into a movie and try to hate it as much as possible seems counterproductive. I try to go the other way. I try to get as much enjoyment out of what I'm watching as possible. I don't go and try to pick at little things and say like, oh, well, you know, I hate the movie because of this. No, if there's enough fuel to the fire for me to hate a movie, and if it really was like something that really tried very hard to be political and try to give a message that I'm not too crazy about, I'm not gonna like the movie. I'd say that it gets too bogged down in a political message and stuff, but that wasn't there. There was too much going on to really think to myself, oh, I didn't sit there, and that's why when I went back and I was listening to how people were saying this is an SJW film and it pushes a feminist agenda because of Holdo in there, and she's not even in the film that much, and it's she's just a bitchy character that you're supposed to root against, and you're supposed to root for Poe to prevail against her, and it's just I didn't sit there and for 1 minute going into this film thinking that that was a big negative. It's like I said, oh, I don't like this character. She's a bit bitchy, but that is what my reaction's supposed to be because she's not. I'm not supposed to root for that character. I'm supposed to be against her. I'm supposed to be on Poe's side. So didn't really get where all the anger was going and coming from at this character. Trying to create a false narrative, trying to make like this film was some type of propaganda piece. And it just seemed like people just really wanted to dislike this film for some reason. I don't know what it is, if it's too much Star Wars too soon, or people still haven't gotten over the prequels yet, but whatever it may be, I don't know, and I really disagree with you guys. So there you go. There's another review, another follow up video, another analysis of this film. And yeah, guys, if I think of anything else, it probably won't be my last Star Wars film, but I will take a request. If there is something that people have a problem with I'm saying in this review and you want me to elaborate on something, let me know what it is. I'd like some material for future videos. Or if you did like The Last Jedi and you still want me to follow up on something that I'm saying and you want me to hear my opinion on a particular aspect of this film that I'm not sharing, please let me know. All right, guys, there you go. Until next time.